On, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our Friday stream. And after the bombs have fallen, uh crazy morning. In fact, this is the first time that I have done any kind of live stream, which are normally very loose. It's just us all hanging out together, having a good time. This is the first time that I've actually thought about what I wanted to say. Because the Trump conviction is something that, despite that I knew it was going to happen, and I think I have a pretty good beat on this election, I don't know what happens next. I quite simply don't. And there's a couple different pathways for it. We will talk through all of them. But we're in crazy times right now. For the first time ever, an ex-president has not only been tried but convicted. 34 counts, felony counts, in a Manhattan courtroom. Without a doubt, this is going to be one of the signposts of the election. What it signifies is yet to be seen. But we can go through all of the possible permutations. What I want from you guys, though, as we talk, is your guess. By the end of this election in November, how much do you believe this conviction, likely to be the only one because of the timings of the other trials, how likely do you believe this moment in time will matter in November? Scale of 1 to 10. That's what I'm curious about, and we'll ask people. We'll ask people throughout the show. In the meantime, I'd like to give you my review of Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. Witness me make a boring movie. War Boy, more like Snore Boy. Why is she a baby for most of the movie? Isn't the cool thing about an apocalyptic wasteland where anything can happen is that you keep meeting new people? I love the first one. I loved Fury Road. I thought Fury Road was awesome. I also wonder whether or not that movie was edited within an inch of its life. Because Anya Taylor-Joy has said that she didn't have a particularly good time. And I wonder if they edited around her. All right, let me bring the chat a little closer here. Hello, everybody. Hello. All power is future power. It feels like somebody stirred the cup and we're all waiting for the tea leaves to settle. I agree with that. It does feel like a lot of energy was released. And what I'm trying to reconcile is what is more powerful. That Susan Collins, who hates Donald Trump, was speaking up on his behalf yesterday, or the polling that showed there would be a material drop in Trump support if he were convicted. S. Kramer says this is the strongest narrative of the election. I mean, certainly Joe Biden hopes so, right? So let's lay out the Biden positive, right? The best possible version of this, if you are Joe Biden, is that finally we get a break. Finally we get a break. We've been eroded on the left with Gaza. We've been begging and pleading for some kind of positive, good economic news, and we ain't got it. There's been no corner turned in Ukraine. The border is quieter now, but you still got the big gaudy numbers, and you have polls coming out with Democrats, a majority of Americans saying that they are for deportations. Things ain't been good. And Donald Trump being on trial did not particularly move the needle. In fact, if anything, it moved the needle toward Trump. So the pro-Biden argument is, come on. Can you really vote for convicted felon Donald Trump? This is the line in the sand that we need. We don't now, Joe Biden's one of his favorite sayings is, don't compare me to the almighty, compare me to the alternative. So maybe things haven't gone great, but convicted felon Donald Trump, which is his full name now, convicted felon Donald Trump, no Democrat will say the name Donald Trump without the prefix of convicted felon. Convicted felon Donald Trump, you're going to go with convicted felon Donald Trump? Because when I think about convicted felon Donald Trump, I think about the fact that he's a convicted felon. That's the hope. Is that sticks. People think less about inflation. They think less about Gaza. They think less about immigration. They think less and less and less about all that. They think mostly about Donald Trump as a convicted felon. I think it's a little wishful thinking. My gut says that everything gets old, and what we've seen is that every time Donald Trump gets closer to legal consequences, he gets more popular. Now the question remains, is there a threshold for that? He got more popular when he got raided, and this is with independents, not even just his constituency. He got more popular when he got raided. He got more popular when he got indicted. He got more popular when he went on trial. Does he get more popular now that he's convicted? Or is that the bridge too far? Yeah, Biden giving permission for Ukraine to use U.S. weapons against Russia. I mean, I would have a hard time believing that things are going well in Ukraine. And then there's this. The sentencing for Donald Trump's 34 felony counts will be on July 11th. That is 4 days before the Republican National Convention, meaning that there is a possibility that Donald Trump is in jail for his party's convention. Which brings us to the positive possibility for Trump. These are not great charges. I've been very upfront with this from the very beginning. I think that these charges are at the kindest that you can say, weak, at the most scaremongery that I could say, if we're setting the precedent here at where ex-presidents get convicted by politically motivated district attorneys, then we're in for a long couple decades. Now, I'm going to quote Michael Tracy here on Twitter. Michael Tracy is not a friend to Donald Trump. he has spent much of his days recently criticizing him for being a warmonger who is. Let's see. Come on, people. There we go. All right, let's throw this up here on the screen. Michael Tracy, you can certainly argue that the 235-year-old gentleman's agreement that presidents are not convicted of crimes had to go, but to throw it out for such insultingly ridiculous charges is a slap in the face to all reason and good judgment. Again, think what you will about Michael Tracy, but it would be pretty ridiculous to call him a MAGA devotee. If you believe that these charges are chintzy, closer to a mattress tag than rape or murder, things for which almost all Americans would be able to believe anybody, including a president of the United States, should go to jail for, then this is a rallying cry that a certain set of politics needs to either be stopped or, and this is what the scary part would be, there needs to be revenge. That if Donald Trump gets 34 felony counts for, paying Michael Cohen, who paid Stormy Daniels, then maybe there's a lot of cases that we should look into, especially in places where one party is the minority. Are there attorney generals who should be looking into old cases with Bill Clinton in Arkansas, for example? That's the kind of stuff that scares me, because that's the kind of stuff that spirals. And I don't know where that energy goes. Because regardless of what you think of any of these characters, and I have certainly been very critical of all of them at some point, the weaponization of the law is something that can erode a common trust. Most of the people that I've talked to in my personal life since this dropped that supported Donald Trump being convicted largely did so because they felt it was a lifetime achievement award. That whether or not these charges were real, who gives a shit? He's emoluments plus January 6th plus Mar-a-Lago plus. He went down for this, but who gives a shit? He was guilty on so much other stuff. And I can understand the anger, but if the anger allows for sloppy application of the law, then boy, do we open ourselves up to a lot of stuff I don't think we're going to think is great after we're done doing it. The bigger thing, in my opinion, was the stretching of the difference of interference in an election. Well, I mean, and even that was a stretch on a stretch, right? Because the charges were about the payments made to Michael Cohen, who paid them to Stormy Daniels, but it was in furtherance of either a state election law crime, a federal election law crime, or a tax crime. I don't know if there's a specific tax rate in Manhattan for hush money that Donald Trump avoided by listing it as legal fees. I don't know. I do know that the FEC never charged Donald Trump with a crime, so it is in furtherance of a crime that the court is saying should have been charged. I think people on the fence that may have voted for Trump may not now because they fear he will spend an entire 4 years retaliating against his conviction. That's one way it could go, Mastodons. That's one way it could go. The energy I've seen has been more on the side of the Democrats are making it illegal to be a Republican. That is the message that the Donald Trump campaign is going to want to get out. Love Trump, hate Trump. If you are against this regime, they will jail you. If I am the Donald Trump campaign, I make that dude Nelson Mandela. I leak stories to the press that Donald Trump is preparing to go to jail. I leak stories saying that he is going to pre-record his RNC speech because he believes that Judge Manchin is going to put him in jail because they want to make him an example. They want to make him a martyr. The Democrats want to make him a martyr, that this is what happens when you step out of line. This is what happens when you dare challenge, Commander, Supreme Leader Biden. Because that's what brings the but my norms crowd back to you if you're Donald Trump. You say this is, it's what he's been saying, they're after you. I'm just in the way. Once they eliminate Trump, then they can go forever. Joe Biden will never leave office. He was supposed to leave this time, by the way. He said he was just a caretaker, but now he's running. That's weird. After another 4 years, after he jails Trump, he'll just stay in office because he's old. So, he wants, so many people voted for him. So they want him to stay in, be there another 4 years. Supreme Leader Biden. That's what I would do. Now, look, Chris Lasavita, Susie Wiles, they've run a really good campaign. Who knows? The Biden campaign is, all right, so here's the other thing that I was thinking today. Let me run this by you guys. Is this, for the Democrats, what the Dobbs decision was for the Republicans? In that, are they now the dog that caught the car? Because Democrats have gotten a lot of mileage out of criminal, con man, criminal, emoluments, oh yeah, blah, blah, blah. Like, people gotten elected. They've raised a lot of money on we're gonna prosecute Trump. Trump should be in jail. Well, now he is convicted. So you got there. In the same way that the Republicans raised a lot of money, got a lot of people elected on Roe versus Wade, save the baby, save the baby, save the babies, then boom, Roe versus Wade is overturned. Now, how do you handle it going forward? Fortunately for them, the more serious court cases are on the horizon, so they can keep ringing that bell. Not in this election, Justin. They're not going to get heard before November. Yeah, I mean, he has 3 huge cases pending. Only one of them may ever get heard because the other 2 are federal. And if he's president, guess what's not going to happen? Those cases. And also, how is the public going to look at those cases now that this one's done? Now that the weakest got charged? Are the rhinos going to become Republicans? That's the question. That's the question. Yeah, Susan Collins came out. Let's read the Susan Collins comment. Senator Susan Collins, one of Senate's most prominent and respected moderate Republicans, came to former President Donald Trump's defense Thursday by criticizing the political underpinnings of Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg's decision to prosecute Trump. Collins was one of 7 Republicans to vote to convict Trump on the impeachment charge of inciting the insurrection and said earlier this year she would not endorse Trump even if he was the GOP nominee. But Collins argued that Trump's conviction by a Manhattan jury on 34 felony counts of falsifying business records raises serious concerns. It is fundamental to our American system of justice that the government prosecutes cases based on alleged criminal conduct, regardless of who the defendant happens to be. In this case, the opposite has happened. The district attorney, who campaigned on a promise to prosecute Donald Trump, brought these charges precisely because of who the defendant was, rather than because of any specified criminal conduct. The political underpinnings of this case further blur the lines between the judicial system and the electoral system, and this verdict will likely be the subject of a protracted appeals process. Now, she doesn't say she's going to vote Trump, but you had Republican operatives that were out on Twitter yesterday saying that Alvin Bragg should be nominated as the Republican operative of the year for uniting the Republican base. We won't have any good polling on this for probably at least 2 or 3 days. We'll probably have snap polling immediately, but I wouldn't really trust that. I would wait for a week. The big thing that will happen probably today is we're probably going to get fundraising numbers. And considering the Republican fundraising portal, WinRed, went under yesterday because of overuse for for like a half hour to an hour, I will imagine that there is going to be a gigantic eye-popping number for Trump that was raised in 24 hours. Oh, 34 million for Trump in 24 hours. We got that. Jesus Christ. 34.8 million? Audi. Wow, that's bigger than I thought. That's bigger than I thought. I thought it was going to be in the 10 to 20 range. Holy shit. How much money did George W. Bush raise in 2004? All right. Total contributions was $700 million in 2004. That's 20 years ago, right? Jesus Christ. All right, let's take a look at this. Here's another Trump enemy. Well, they've made amends. Donald Trump and the old crow, Mitch McConnell. I don't know why that isn't on their front page. Trump campaign announced $35 million fundraising haul after guilty verdict. The Trump campaign brought in roughly $35 million after he was found guilty of 34 felony counts in a New York hush money trial, as his campaign argues the verdict supercharged support amongst grassroots donors. From the minutes after the sham trial verdict was announced, our digital fundraising system was overwhelmed with support. And despite temporary delays online because of the amounts of traffic, President Trump raised $34.8 million from small dollar donors, LaSavita and Wiles issued in a group statement. The campaign said that the fundraising total broke the campaign's previous record for small dollar donations in a day. LaSavita and Wiles said nearly 30% of the donors following the verdict were new to the Win Red platform, which used the Republican candidate for fundraising, as used by Republican candidates for fundraising. President Trump and our campaign are immensely grateful for this outpouring of support from patriots across our country. President Trump is fighting to save our nation, and November 5th is the day Americans will deliver the real verdict. What was Trump's fundraising total in April? What was Donald Trump's? Is that a lot for a U.S. presidential campaign? I have no frame of reference. Yes. In 24 hours? Like, I'm trying to look up. All right, so in April, Trump's campaign and the Republican Party raised more than $76 million in a month, right? So they raised $76 million in a month. They raised half of that in a day yesterday. That gives you a sense of like, and that's not going to end. Usually, like, you do that. I mean, well, this is all going to go into the May report. So his May report is going to be fucking insane. His May report's going to be crazy, and that'll bleed into June. The big dinner, so that added to the 76 million. Were the big dinners. Just to give a sense, in March they raised 65.6 million. So they've been raising around that. So they raised half of that in 24 hours. Half of their normal month they did in a day. Joe Manchin just switched to independent. Well, that's interesting. I fucking hate. The one thing I hate about Restream is the inability to click fucking links. Joe Manchin leaving the Independent Party or the Democratic Party. This gives him the ability to run for governor again if he wants. It's also pretty much the end of Democrats in West Virginia. A reminder that Republicans didn't really play in West Virginia until recently, fairly recently. It was one of those old Democratic Party, Southern Democrat kind of strongholds. But Joe Manchin was the last one, and now he's not even in that party. So that is, it matters if you care about West Virginia state politics, but otherwise it doesn't really matter all that much. In an alternate universe, where would we be if none of these charges dropped in the last year? Just a straight up campaign. I don't know. There's a lane to say that Trump might make it out of the primary, but he's certainly a lot more bruised. DeSantis was running pretty close to Trump before the first indictments. 34 million's a fucking lot, dude. Like, let's see. How much did Biden make with that Radio City Music Hall event? How much did the Biden campaign make with the Radio City Music Hall event in 2024 featuring Bill Clinton? So to give context, Joe Biden raised $26 million on the event he did at Radio City Music Hall that featured Stephen Colbert, Bill Clinton, and Barack Obama, and was a big production. So they probably didn't get to, when you really think about it, it cost them money to make that. But let's say it cost them, $6 million. Let's say it's a $6 million event. It's still a lot of money. That was the biggest money event so far of this cycle. And it was $26 million, and it took 3 presidents. The Trump campaign raised more than that, 8 million more than that, without spending anything. I can't imagine. I mean, whatever they spent yesterday on ads is marginal. That's hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe $1 million, maybe. Yeah, it did crash when red. The donations crashed when red. And the other thing is that, like, he's got a debate coming up and then the sentencing. The question is exactly how much can Donald Trump make the argument that Joe Biden wants to jail his political opponents? For people that bitch about elections being rigged, they sure have the faith to put a lot of money into the system. Well, including Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate on Twitter last night saying that he's putting $200,000 for my N-word Trump. I wonder if it changes the dynamic for the debate. Well, I certainly, my argument on the Trump side strategically was for Trump to be very grandfatherly and let Joe Biden talk a lot. I don't think we're going to get that Trump. I think we are going to get an angry Trump. The question is whether or not he can stick to the record. And if you're Joe Biden, you want Donald Trump to talk a lot about that trial, a lot about January 6th. You want to talk a lot about Mar-a-Lago. You want him to talk a lot about that kind of stuff. What you don't want him to talk about is the economy. You don't want him to talk about the border. You don't want to talk about how good the economy was under Trump. Like that's stuff you don't want him. You want to push Trump into talking about things that Trump likes to talk about but are not good for him. Oh, ICU. I hated Furiosa. I didn't hate Furiosa. I didn't like it. Send the GIF. Send the GIF. I walked out of the theater and I was like, God damn it, ICU is going to fucking put the GIF in the chat room. So now I've been looking forward to it all morning. Jimmy Mack, it gives Biden an ability to not debate. No, he needs to debate. Well, I guess we'll see, right? If all of a sudden the polls show that this fucking radically reversed the election and now Donald Trump's support has fallen apart, then maybe he doesn't want to debate. But based on the numbers as they were yesterday, he needs to debate. He needs to shake up this race. Was it terrible? Did it just not live up to Fury Road? Well, Fury Road's like an amazing movie. So it certainly did not live up to Fury Road. It was just kind of the one thing that I never expected it to be, which is a little boring. It's just kind of boring. And, it felt like new Star Wars-y, where you had all the iconography from the other movie that you liked, but they're just doing less interesting shit. There were parts that I liked. I love Chris Hemsworth. Chris Hemsworth is great. He's the villain and he speaks like a character in an Auntie Donna sketch. So I was all in on that. Yeah. Here we go. The GIF I was dreaming about. It stinks. Just me on the critic. Shit. Yeah, we'll do calls. Let me get my headphones. Where are my cans? Do I need more coffee? I might need more coffee. Yeah, well, that was the other thing is it's like, without getting into specifics, it's like Rogue One-esque in a lot of ways, up to and including its relationship with the other movie that it is playing in the universe of. All right, well, here. Look at this GIF. I'm going to get more coffee, then we'll take calls. All right. Maybe Jerry needs to stop watching franchise movie with female leads. You won't take Aliens or Alien away from me. You won't. I love Alien. Rogue One rocked and is the best new Star Wars along with Andor. You're making Furiosa sound great. I hated Rogue One. I loved Andor. So if you want my touchstone for it, maybe you'll love it. I don't know. Everybody's got their own opinion. This is just one man's opinion. Just seemed like a bunch of kids with animal costumes. I just thought it was boring. All right. Famey, I would not take it. There's some fucking intense shit in there. If you saw Fury Road, you will know that Furiosa doesn't have an arm. She starts the movie with an arm. So there you go. Rogue One is like Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, always better in hindsight than when you're actually watching it. I mean, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey has like some of the best shit in the Bill and Ted franchise. Like it's got a first act that drags, but like when it gets going, it's fucking amazing. And similarly, I guess my problem with the Furiosa script is more that it feels like it wants to be kind of three different movies, and then it winds up settling on just making Furiosa the main character in all of them. It just felt a little disjointed. Anyway, Mr. Merrill Barr, what's going on?
Jerry, how you doing? It's fine.
Oh, hold on. Wait a minute. People can't hear you. I forgot to plug this in. Here we go. Yeah. All right. How about this?
Am I good here?
Hopefully. Let me.
Here, no father.
Yeah. No father. Let me Make sure audio roadcaster video. Cool. Yeah. No, we're good. All right. What's on your mind? Scale of 1 to 10. Scale of 1 to 10. Do you think that this Trump trial conviction matters in November on 1 to 10?
I think it sets the stage for what could matter in November, and that's not a cop-out answer. I'm not.
Well, no, it is. So you can't just say it's not a cop-out answer when you're copping out. That's not a magic spell. You can't just cast it and say this is not a cop-out answer. I asked you 1 to 10, how much is it going to matter?
It will matter because it will matter if it's still happening, because he's gonna appeal it, right? So is he
Scale of 1 to 10, Merrill. Then you can qualify all you want, but you have to give a number first.
Five, because
Five.
I genuinely don't know.
Okay, good. Now you can qualify. See, that's easy.
But here's the thing: I want to address something you just said, and then address something you said on Wednesday. I feel like you're making counteracting points.
Okay.
On Wednesday, you were making fun of the Biden campaign for bringing out Robert De Niro to then make a speech about, well, if Trump gets in office, he's going to stay in office, and you say goodbye to your life. But now you're saying that the Republicans will pull the same move.
Yes.
So they'll say the same exact thing.
Yes.
So why is it okay that the Republicans will use that tactic, but Biden can't?
Well, ultimately, it doesn't matter whether or not somebody can or can't do it. It matters whether or not it's effective. I just think it's more effective when the candidate is possibly going to jail, because that looks a lot more like Nelson Mandela than Robert De Niro spazzing out.
I do want to address that particular concern, because I've been thinking a lot about it this week. The concern of, regardless of, like, each side believes the same.
Because
thing,
also that was a political event. So now the Biden campaign, which had largely stayed away from that trial because I think they wanted to inoculate themselves from the Trump campaign being able to say that this is a political event, they then made it a political event because they brought their campaign there and they raised money on it. So, like, you know, they did it in soft ways. They were selling like free on Wednesday t-shirts and stuff on their website, but that's like tongue in cheeky. It's a little memey. They sent their team out there on the last day of the trial. And so now they can't say that they were staying away from it and just letting the law run its course. They were they will be looked at as spiking the football.
Regarding the whole, whichever side is saying it, right? The other guy will stay in office and not leave after their second term. Yeah. Right. I've been thinking a lot about that, and I think I might comprehend where it could be coming from, at least for me.
Okay.
We have laws on the books about attempted crimes, right? Attempted murder, attempted rape, conspiracy to commit fraud. We have these things because we have, as a society, agreed the attempt to commit bad is equally as bad as actually.
Well, not equally.
Bad.
Usually the sentences are lesser, but sure, yes, I get your point. Okay.
What concerns me about, and obviously I wouldn't be more concerned about Trump than Biden, given my political leanings. What concerns me about Trump is less that he would succeed in staying in office beyond his second term, but that he would try, right? And so what concerns me is that what that attempt would, what the fallout of that attempt would be. That's what concerns me. And I think what concerns anybody is less that they would succeed in going past the second term, but that what the attempt would create. Look at what the attempt to stay in office the first time created. We got January 6th out of that. So what does an attempt create? And I think that's what concerns people.
Sure. I mean, a lot of things can concern a lot of people. Is it enough to, I mean, you were never going to be a Trump voter. Is that safe to say?
Yes.
So your justification is whether or not you are going to vote for Biden or whether or not you are not going to vote for Biden. And ultimately, you are only one tick mark in the general election number.
In a state that is almost assuredly going to go Biden.
Yes. Yeah. Now, does that convince anybody that was on the fence? I particularly find that argument to be the most compelling, or I've heard it the most from partisans, from Democratic partisans for whom Donald Trump has been a Michael Myers nightmare figure in their lives that will not go away. Every time they think that they have defeated him, he just rises back up and keeps coming back. And this is and so if he has already unleashed so many horrors upon you, then why wouldn't he just stay forever? Because that's what has happened so far. You've thought he's been done. Any other politician would be gone based on any number of these things that have happened. His past, the list of women that said that he sexually assaulted them, the grab him by the pussy tape, the Stormy Daniels thing, the Russia thing, the Ukraine thing, then January 6th. Surely losing an election and then January 6th afterward is enough to knock him off the national stage. No, he's back. He's back now, and now he's more popular. Now he's more popular than he's ever been before. Oh my God, this is terrible. The only thing that could be more terrible is he never goes away. And I think that's where I have heard this argument the most. I don't know how many people who are on the fence are thinking about that, but certainly it is a narrative on the left. There's no arguing that.
But does it become a narrative on the right now, given what you said that they're likely going to use after this?
Well, I don't know if they're likely to do it. I'm saying what I would do. I'm saying that I would take the facts as they are now and say a version of what the Trump campaign has kind of been soft saying, which is that Joe Biden's America means it's illegal to be a Republican. You will be jailed if you challenge the regime. And Donald Trump is an example. And anytime anyone steps out of line, they're going to tap the sign, and that sign is going to be 34 felony counts in Manhattan.
I look, and the reason I was being like cagey about like my answer to your opening question was, I don't know, like, look, it's really fun that those felonies happen, right? But at least for me, but I don't think they're gonna I think they're gonna get appealed. They're gonna rush through the appeals process as fast as humanly possible.
You think that the appeals court wants to do Donald Trump a favor?
I think that the appeals court is going to be pressured into hearing the case as soon as possible.
I don't know. I have no reason to think that.
I would be very surprised if he spends a day in jail. Genuinely.
I don't think that it's out of the question. Why would it be out of the question? I mean, if these are the charges he's going to go down on, not January 6th, not the Mar-a-Lago docks case, not emoluments, not any of that. It's how he wrote checks to his lawyer with lawyer on them.
Let me ask you a question, because I don't think you keep treating it as extremes. Like he's either going to be in jail or he's not going to be in jail. I mean, do you see a version of house arrest not being on the table? Because I do.
House arrest or jail to me is the same thing. If he is restricted in his movement, then this is, especially leading up to the RNC. Like
but based on your rhetoric, what the RNC would love is him doing a speech from a jail phone, right? That's like the best case scenario for them. But if he's just under house arrest and doing that from his home, his fancy golden palace in New York City.
Do you not think that will make him that will not make him more sympathetic to the American people?
Which, the jail cell or home arrest?
Either.
House arrest less so. Either way, it'd be sympathetic probably, but house arrest less so. Because at the end of the day, you would see behind him Mar-a-Lago.
I mean, dude, you're seeing something that I'm not seeing. If he is physically unable to come to his party's convention, you're telling me that people are going to be like, yeah, but he's got gold in the back.
I mean, kinda. We've seen how people act in general. I wouldn't be shocked if the gold in the back makes him. We are not sympathetic towards the rich in general.
And do you think that Donald Trump being convicted makes him look more or less rich? Do rich people normally get 34 convictions, or do poor people normally get these kind of convictions?
Rich people get convicted of stuff all the time. They don't serve time. That's always been the problem.
I think you're doing a lot of deli slicing here, dude. I think you are cutting around very delicately the meat of this, which is very interesting because that's kind of what I saw yesterday online. Is that Republicans had their hair on fire, and they were like, "Fucking fall of the country, fall of the republic," blah 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 blah, and Democrats were like, "Oh, basketball's on." Like there was some people that were like dancing in the streets. Thank God Donald Trump, blah blah, finally, blah blah blah. But like a lot of them were just like, well, do 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 do.
Yeah,
Which is why it makes me wonder whether or not this is a dog that caught the car thing.
well, I think also it's like I think Democrats have been burned so much. Not liberals, like, and I mean leftists when I say this, and I'll get yelled at by leftists for calling them Democrats. You know,
It's how they vote.
yeah, people have been burned so many times in moments like this where we think, oh, the rich and powerful shitheel is finally gonna get his comeuppance, and then straight up doesn't, and then we're like, oh, great, so cool, happened again. So I think it's that. What I saw a lot of, and what I personally was following, was like cautious optimism of like, great, he got convicted. Call me when he's actually serving a jail sentence. Like, I've seen I've watched in my lifetime so many rich guys just get away with murder, not literally, but just get away with the crime at the end of the day. Just there's no real consequence beyond at most being convicted of a thing and then, hey, pay a fine. Like, so I'm not ready to celebrate because I'd have to see him in jail before I celebrate shit.
You believe he should be in jail. So you personally do believe for this crime he should be in jail.
No. I don't know what I have not followed the case enough to honestly know what like the severity of the case is and whether or not he should be jailed for it. I said that rhetorically. I mean, like, show me him in jail before you ask me to give a shit that he was convicted. Because we have seen so much that conviction doesn't matter for
I mean, dude, I don't know how much. I mean, like, you are certainly looking at this in a very unique way. Is all I'll say.
But yeah. So to me, it is a nothing burger right now, right?
You said 5.
But I would say a lot of people, including yourself, were calling J6 a nothing burger at the time.
So I did not call J6 a nothing burger.
You said it was a local story that didn't matter.
No, I said that it matters more in DC than it matters outside of DC, and I still stand by that.
That feels like deli slicing, doesn't it?
No, I've been consistent in this. I think that January 6th is an ugly thing nationally. People don't think about it positively, but it's not the 9/11 that people inside the Beltway believe it is. And that's all I've ever said is that whenever I've talked to people in DC, January 6th is a very personal, very scarring event. And I don't know how much that translates outside to the body politic. It certainly ranks below things like the economy and the fact that grocery prices are high and gas prices are high and mortgage rates are high. Those things matter more than January 6th, whereas I think inside the Beltway, January 6th is higher up that list.
Here's the question I've been trying to get an answer to, and I haven't been able to find it. Do you know what the minimum sentencing guidelines are for these crimes?
No.
That's something I've been trying to find out because whatever they are, I guarantee that's the way the sentencing goes.
How do you know?
I have no reason to believe that we'd see anything more than the minimum on all of it.
Why, though? They've treated it very seriously.
Who's they?
The fucking DA and the judge.
Okay, but now it's the judge's discretion on sentencing, correct?
Did you get the sense that he's been very sympathetic to Trump throughout this trial?
I haven't heard much about the judge at all.
All right, Merrill, I'm going to let you go.
All right.
Do some reading on some of this. But yes, no, he's been at a great conflict with Trump, including Trump calling him highly conflicted because his daughter's a Democratic fundraiser.
Got it. All right. Bye.
All right. Bye. 510-404-8030. Before we take another call, I do have news that literally just came in to me a couple minutes ago. Very sad news. One of our longtime Diamond Club community members, Wabbit Magic, real name Alan, has died. It happened last night. It was a diabetic episode. So obviously more news on that as we get it, but that just came in to me, and it always hurts to lose people that are part of our little band of misfits. So R.I.P. to Wabbit Magic. Hello.
Hello. This is Pete Guyton.
Hello.
How's it going?
I'm doing great, man. Doing great. All right. 1 out of 10. What do you think this trial is going to matter at the end?
2. Only 2.
Okay. Why?
I don't think anyone cares about it at all. There are bigger issues at work, and everyone I know, at least here in South Carolina,
Yep.
they don't care at all. Every politician here, they're shouting at the top of their lungs how insane it is.
Yeah. So that would indicate that they do care if they're screaming how
point.
insane it is. But your point is that it is not something that would negatively affect things.
Yes, nothing changed. Everyone went into this already knowing who the man is and everything he did. I think it was assumed that he was guilty of this. So a verdict with really,
that's the interesting part, and that's to me the thing that separates this from the Mar-a-Lago docs case, and it separates it from the January 6th case, is that the Mar-a-Lago docs case to me is the cleanest that you could convict him on something, and I think people could understand it because essentially it's Trump's defense is, wait a minute, nobody was playing by the rules. Why did I have to play by the rules now? But inherent in that is that he broke the rules.
Get this. One of the jurors said he only got his news from Truth Social, and that man voted guilty. So this was so obvious that even that guy voted guilty.
Well, he also said he got his news from MSNBC. It was the Daily Mail, Truth Social, and MSNBC. So who knows exactly what that was. Also, I think that there were a lot of people who were hanging on the conservative sphere that were hanging their hopes on him being a hung jury person. But obviously that was not going to be the case.
That's what I thought too. I was like, surely one person's going to be a lunatic, like never, you always Trumper type person. So that was
but in Manhattan, man, it's hard to find those. Although apparently in the Bronx, you could have found a few based on that rally he had a couple weeks ago. But so the Mar-a-Lago docs case is that the January 6th case to me rests on the idea of whether or not you believe that a novel legal theory is something that could protect you. That is something that is well beyond my pay grade from a legal perspective. But this one, it's like, oh, well, he was found guilty. Let me ask you, Frank, what was he guilty of? What is the crime here?
Hiding an affair from his wife, who he loved. See, he made a mistake, you see, and in a rush to judgment, he paid the person off because he didn't want his wife to find out.
Well, no, that would have been exculpatory evidence. Had the jury believed that story, then he would not have been convicted because that is not a crime.
But we don't care about the jury. We care about the electorate.
So, I mean, but I guess that's the thing that to me, the bar for prosecuting a president, in my mind, just my personal opinion, needs to be like one word clear to the country. And it really only falls to 2 crimes, rape and murder. Beyond that, I think treason. Yeah. But boy, you'd have it's got to be like real treason. Like not like I called you a treasonous on Truth Social treason, right? Because anything that we get into the soft areas, now it gets into political speech, which is by its very nature hyperbolic. And if we're melding political speech with legal persecution, that's where we get into fucking, I don't want to use the same verbiage that the Trump campaign is, but that is the third world banana republic shit, is like when you meld political language with legal persecution. because that shit never ends. It's just one party gets out, they jail the other party gets out, they jail the party before that.
A lot of it's creating sound bites. They're like, what can I say? How can I use this to get people to vote for me? Good or bad.
Yeah. And you know, look, Alvin Bragg campaigned on getting Trump. So
But get this.
promises made, promises kept.
So get this. I'm calling it now. He's not going to be allowed to golf or eat hamburgers. That's going to be the ultimate penalty. He's still going to be able to go to the events because they don't want him locked up. Because like you always say, that's just going to get him more votes, make him look sympathetic. So they're going to let the Secret Service escort him and make sure he doesn't do anything fun, but he can go to the political events.
But that's
Otherwise, he has to just
that's
stay in his
getting
house.
halfway pregnant, right? Like that almost like that's like too cute. Like either you don't convict him or you convict him. And that's the thing. They're pregnant now. Like this is
What about
Donald
throw in-
Trump is a martyr now.
What about throwing a huge monetary fine, too? Does that make it better?
I mean, well, they already did that with his you know, assessing of his property stuff. They already hit him for like, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars.
That was the big that I care about even less than this. That was the
Well,
case
that
of
one's
portion of
forgotten.
this.
That one's forgotten, except for MSNBC and PBS folks. Like that one isn't even mentioned anymore. That and the E. Jean Carroll one.
Yeah, I think everyone was happy with that. They're like, okay, I'll pay a small fine. It's fine. I'll use it to get more money.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I think with this, he has more of a martyr argument than he's ever had before. The question is exactly how far that sphere of influence goes. Does it go to the never Trumpers? You know, if Susan Collins is complaining about, does that mean that there's a lot of people that voted for Biden in 2020 that now are like, whoa, I don't like where this is going?
And they're in a state that matters, like Michigan.
Michigan, Georgia, Nevada, Arizona, Wisconsin.
I mean, at this point, I don't even understand why we bother with the national polls. Like, just poll these states that matter. Let's get a smaller poll. That's all that really matters.
Well, because national polls do show you general trend lines. I do think that national polls are important. They're just not
Useful,
yeah,
but
they're
not
useful
for the
data
election.
points.
They're useful for like the temperature of the country as a whole, but not for the actual electoral election.
Yeah. Have you seen the picture of Jesus with his hands on Trump's shoulder saying, "Don't worry, I was convicted too"?
I have. It's ridiculous. I think I saw you tweet that. That's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
Did you see the story in South Carolina where it's now okay to gerrymander? It's actually perfectly legal as long as you're not doing it for race. If you're trying to disenfranchise the other party, A-okay.
Well, that's kind of always been the case, right?
Yeah, but now it's in paper. They've approved it, and they're saying it aloud instead of just, yeah, that's what we do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think North Carolina, several Republicans are leaving the House because they just were gerrymandered to the point where they couldn't win. Or Democrats, no. I keep forget what North Carolina is.
I don't know who
It's so
controls their.
ridiculous.
I don't know who controls their state house, right? Because the state house is who draws the map, and then sometimes the governor, the governor, if the governor's from a different party, then he has certain veto stuff. Or if it's like where Florida, where you have a solid Republican state house and a Republican governor, then they can pretty much do whatever they want.
Right. That's the case here in South Carolina. We're as red can be.
Yeah, with McMaster, right?
Yep. And
Yeah.
Lindsey Graham, the duo. So I will say my absolute favorite advertisement of any political ad I've ever seen in my entire life was a giant poster of Lindsey Graham with the word liar. It was on I-95 down here. Drove past it every day. It was so great.
Oh, Lindsey Graham. Hey, talk about a guy who's been on every side of everything at some point.
Much like Nikki Haley. Maybe it's a thing with South Carolina.
Maybe it's South Carolina. Maybe South
Yeah, we
Carolina
just like-
just has a very permissive attitude.
And I'm sorry I didn't get to meet up with you when you were in Columbia. I'm glad you enjoyed our cigar shop.
Oh man, what was the name? That cigar shop was my favorite. Might be. I mean, it's in the top 10, top 5, maybe even top 3 cigar shops in the country, in my opinion. I've been to a lot of them. But
Thank you very much.
But do you know the one that I'm talking about? Have you been to the one that I'm talking about?
I've heard of it. I live like an hour away in Florence. We're like more towards the beach. But we have a really good one here too. So if you're ever driving through, pop by.
Yeah, let me make sure that I know that it was something stupid. It was just called like Cigar Place But it was a proper fucking dive bar with a gigantic humidor, and the crowd was
Places
awesome.
overdo it.
The crowd was awesome. And it was just, they were watching South Carolina women's basketball and they all fucking knew shit. It was just a great time, an amazing time.
We got that, and we got barbecue. That's our things.
Yeah. Although I don't really like the barbecue. I'm not a barbecue. I'm not a South Carolina
right,
barbecue.
fine.
I'm not a vinegar sauce fan. That's fine. We can move on. We don't need to hang on this. Thank you so much for calling.
Unexpected. Thank you. Have a good one.
You as well. Bedoop. 510-404-8030. We're taking calls on a Friday. Open phones Friday. Can you imagine the Rush Limbaugh episode that would be happening today after Donald Trump, the President of the United States of America, is convicted by a highly conflicted judge? Oh, we got a lot of calls coming in. Who we taking? Let's take this one. Who's this?
Hey, this is Drew. Object /_ in space. How you doing, man?
How you doing, dog? What's popping?
I'm doing good, man. It's been a lot of my friends are popping off with the wine and the champagnes and the other alcoholic beverages on this and historic day. Well,
Yep.
I guess yesterday was the and historic day.
And what are your thoughts? How 1 to 10? How much do you think this matters in November?
Yeah, so I'm gonna say 7 out of 10. I'm gonna.
So you think it's a big deal? This is a real turning point in this race.
So I'm gonna do another thing. This is a scale that I like even better than the 1 out of 10 scale, which is the 1 out of 10 excluding 7 scale, because 7 is also kind of wishy-washy, right? It's important. You have to make a choice with the 7 gone. So I would say 6. With the 7 removed, which is to say it's important. It makes a change in the race. It changes the narratives. It sort of resets the board a little bit. Whether it will actually change the outcome in November, I think depends on how the various teams play it and what playbooks they run and how successful they end up being, which is, remains to be seen, because the Biden campaign has this great knack of snatching defeat out of the jaws of victory. So they, I think that it helps. I think it helps them in a lot of ways because, like you said, I think the story of this election has not been so much about the people who show up. It's about who isn't showing up, who can be motivated to show up, who would normally show up, but who's sitting it out this time because of the circumstances and the ways people are being told. So it gives them for the independents and the nonpartisans and the people who are just sort of like, this is a shot on the arm, I think, for the Biden campaign to say, look, forget everything you think about Biden. Forget even everything you think about Trump. This is simply about, do you just want to stand idly by and let a convicted felon waltz into the White House? I think that will, if they just sit with that, I think that they have an opportunity.
Well, it certainly, I think you pointed out something very important. It certainly gets Biden away from his record, because the record matters less, because you are saying, well, come on, a felon in the White House? Like that his problem has been people don't like his record. They don't like his record on the economy. They don't like his record on immigration. And especially on his left flank, they have very pointed issues about his record on foreign policy. So if he's like, forget who I am, again, this is one of Biden's favorite things. Don't compare me to the almighty. Compare me to the alternative. If the alternative is a felon, you wouldn't possibly vote for a felon over little old me, would you?
Right. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, and as far as I think the norms crowd is still on the side because, I mean, for one thing, I'm old enough to remember when a lot of people wanted to put W in jail over the Iraq War. I mean, we've come a long way since those days. I feel like a lot, like the disconnected crowd who doesn't look at politics very closely and, maybe takes this a bit more casually. When the through line, I think, is very simple. Donald Trump fucked around, and he found out. He did something that we frown upon in society. He had an extramarital affair, not illegal, but we frown upon it. Tried to cover it, as we know, as always, it's the cover up that gets you. He tried to cover it up. Didn't work. Found out. Went to jail for it. Society.
I mean, but hold. Where's the illegal part?
Yeah.
I'm asking you.
Well,
in that fuck around and found out, where's the illegal part? Because everything you've described is not illegal.
Right. The covering. I mean, it's generally the case. It's the cover up that gets you. So the cover.
Yeah, but he did not cover up anything illegal. He didn't cover up anything illegal.
Well, I mean, I'm not. This is what.
This is the problem, though, my friend. This is the problem. This exact moment. This moment is the problem, because everybody I know that's happy that he went to jail considers it a lifetime achievement award. That ultimately we always get to this part of the conversation where I'm like, exactly what was illegal, and they're like, yeah. And it becomes a hand wave thing. Then it's like, but Mar-a-Lago, but January 6th, but, and it's like, that's fine. You can believe that it's a lifetime achievement award and that he deserved to go to jail, and this was just the thing that they got him on. But we do have to make peace with the idea that you can't explain in 2 or 3 words why he just got hit with 34 felony convictions.
Well, the illegal part was a campaign finance crime, which the SEC had the jurisdiction to go after, and they chose not to. But
yes.
Illegal, you're still able to do. But I mean, this is interesting because you sort of jujitsu'd my point, my eventual point back on me, which was when the people, and I think they have a valid factual basis. Like the prosecution, I think you can say it was politically motivated because Alvin Bragg.
You think?
Guy and he was trying to get re-election. Sure, that's all valid. But I think what a lot of people who don't get into the minutia on it, when they hear someone on Twitter's being like, "The jury instructions were very biased," they just hear a lot of whining, and it doesn't really, because we don't, the conviction should be a fairly high bar. You get 12 people who supposedly don't know anything about the situation into a room, you explain all this crap, and then theoretically there should be at least one crazy person who goes, I just don't know about this guy.
Do you think that, let's say that
so it didn't happen,
let's say that rape, let's say that rape is, they take away the statute of limitations on that crime in Arkansas, and Juanita Broderick, who said that she was raped by Bill Clinton before he became governor, that she now has recourse to bring criminal rape charges against Bill Clinton. Do you believe that there would be outrage from Democrats that A, that happened, and B, he would face a jury of a bunch of people from Arkansas that would be judging whether or not he was guilty?
I think probably the people would be outraged, yes, but people are always outraged. There, it's trendy. You go on X, I'm outraged. And that's fine. I would say probably going after Bill Clinton is not the best target because he's super old and the stuff was really a long time ago. And I would probably just roll my eyes and be like, really? But I would also say if Juanita Broderick believes that she has proof that she can prove in a court of law, I think that's a pretty high bar given the amount of time that's passed. But if she has
in Arkansas,
she, she got the goods
in Arkansas. I mean, because that would be the argument, is that the reason I use that as an analog is not to say anything.
I don't know Arkansas. I've never lived there. So,
well, I will tell you, it's a red state. There's a lot of Republicans there. It is not particularly close when the election rolls around, in the same way that Manhattan is not particularly close when the election rolls around.
Sure.
So
I mean, he was governor in the state. He was popular enough to get elected back then. I'm just saying, I mean, the bar is get 12 people who don't know anything, right? Because that's the point of the jury selection. Is theoretically they're supposed to have a whole lot of familiarity with him and everything. Theoretically, and they're able to all say, yes, this guy did it. Rape is a serious crime. Going to jail, for a long time is a serious matter. I would think that someone who is not predisposed.
All right. Hey, thank you so much for calling, brother. We're gonna put on, somebody put the link for the Trump thing here, because Trump is now talking, so we're gonna watch that for a second. All right. Sorry about that. I didn't want to cut you off, but people are yelling at me to put this shit on, so we're gonna put this on. Oh, shit. Do we just see the link? Yeah, that was the link. All right. As soon as... Here we go.
Any human being other than the report that was written on James Comey by the Inspector General, a very great Inspector General, actually, wrote a report that was so bad. This one was possibly worse. The Southern District, the judge didn't let us use it. He said, it's hearsay. I said, it's not hearsay. Wouldn't let us use it. This is about the man. But he got in trouble for a very simple reason, because he was involved with borrowing a lot of money, and he did something with the banks. I don't know if it's defrauded the banks, but something happened. You guys know what it is. And then in addition to that, he gave up on 3 things where he wasn't guilty. In fact, they were going to testify in that. The head of the FEC, the Brad Smith, the election expert, #1 rated in the country, who was going to testify. He took a plea on 3 things. He just added them in because that gave him more bargaining power with respect to me. But the 3 things that he pled on, having to do with the election and having to do essentially a little bit with me.
This is Trump Tower, I
they
believe.
Weren't crimes. They weren't crimes. Nor is paying money under an NDA. So we have an NDA, non-disclosure agreement. It's a big deal, a non-disclosure agreement. Totally honorable, totally good, totally accepted. Everybody has them. Every company has non-disclosure agreements. But the press called it slush fund and all sorts of other things. Hush money, hush money. It's not hush money. It's called a non-disclosure agreement. And most of the people in this room have a non-disclosure agreement with their company. It's a disgrace. So it's not hush money.
Neither
it's a
knew he over my
non-disclosure
shoes. So I went to
totally legal.
Morganville, which they called
Totally
Shelbyville
common.
in those days.
Everyone has it. And what happened is he signed a non-disclosure agreement with this person, I guess other people, but it's totally honest. You're allowed to make the payment. You don't have to make it. You can make it any way you want. It's a non-disclosure agreement. And he signed that. And there was nothing wrong with signing it. And this should have been a non-case. And everybody said it was a non-case, including Bragg. Bragg said, until I ran for office. And then they saw the polls. I was leading the Republicans. I was leading the Democrats. I was leading everybody. And all of a sudden, they brought it back. It's a very sad thing that's happening in our country. And it's a thing that I'm honored. In a way, I'm honored. It's not that it's pleasant. It's very bad for family. It's very bad for friends and businesses. But I'm honored to be involved in it because somebody has to do it. And I might as well keep going and be the one. But I'm very honored to be involved because we're fighting for our Constitution. The money that was paid legally. There was nothing illegal. In fact, the lawyer in creating the NDA, because at that time he was a fully accredited lawyer. He wasn't a fixer. I never thought of him as a fixer. The media called him a fixer, or the prosecutors called him a fixer. He was a lawyer. And he was fairly good. Later on, I didn't like what he did. I didn't like, for instance, I didn't like that when I became president, he went around and made deals with companies. When I heard that, he was gone. He was gone. And he had payments coming to him. And a lot of this involved things that are very simple. There was nothing wrong. This was standard stuff, all standard stuff. Everything involved was standard. There was no crime here. In fact, I just watched a couple of the reports. You watched Jonathan Turley, Andy McCarthy, Greg Jarrett. You look at all of these people, Mark Levin, all very talented people, great people, many more. And they don't know me, essentially. They don't know me. They're legal scholars and experts. But I look at them. I watched Turley this morning saying, there's no crime here. Everybody says there's no crime here. except for this DA that's got the city out of control with crime. It's absolutely out of control. So we have an NDA that was signed. We have legal expenses. And here's the thing on legal expenses. You have 100 where they say, they do a charge. I just recorded this out. Falsification of business records in the first degree. It sounds so bad. I said, wow. And even my own lawyers, I get very upset with them because they don't say what it is. They say, well, falsification of legal records is only a felony. Well, that's a lot. Is only they say a misdemeanor. But they try and bring it up to a felony if there's 2 crimes. They have all these different things. The other thing is they missed the statute of limitations by a lot because this was very old. They could have brought this 7 years ago instead of bringing it right in the middle of the election. So they missed the statute of limitations. They did everything. Now, let me give you the good news. The good news is last night, we just got a report this morning. In the history of politics, I believe, maybe I'm wrong, somebody will find that I'm wrong, maybe, but I don't think so. They raised with small money donors, meaning like $21, $42, $53, $38, a record $39 million in about a 10-hour period. No, think of that.
34 was the number that they released.
I like those people.
Unless there's been an updated figure.
Because so far, I guess it's backfiring. Now, I don't know. I'd rather not have it happen. I don't want to have it backfiring. I don't want to win this thing legitimately, not because they were stupid and did things that they shouldn't be doing. They shouldn't have brought this case. They were saying it this morning. This is a case that should not have been brought. I watched Andy McCarthy say this is a case that should not have been brought. And that was this morning. But they all say that. Every legal scholar has said it. And these are great people. They really understand the law. The other thing, a poll just came out. The first poll, I don't know, maybe others will be bad. But a poll just came out a little while ago. The Daily Mail. Does anybody read the Daily Mail?
Well,
very
geez.
good. They have
All
a good
right.
poll. At least I like it today. And the Daily Mail just came out with a poll, and it has Trump up 6 points in the last 12 hours. 6 points. 6 points since this happened.
I would
Who
not
thought
trust
this could happen?
any of that. Don't trust anything that comes out poll-wise over the next 2 days. Wait a
Because
week.
The people
Wait
of
a
our
week.
country know it's a hoax. They know it's a hoax. They get it. You know, they're
It might
really
be right.
smart.
We don't know. We have no idea, but
And,
just don't trust it.
It's really something. So we're going to be appealing this scam. We're going to be appealing it on many different things. He wouldn't allow us to have witnesses. He wouldn't allow us to talk. He wouldn't allow us to do anything. The judge was a tyrant. And you got to see that with Bob Costello, a fine man. I've never seen anything like it. And neither has anybody that was in that courthouse where he demanded that the courthouse be cleared. Now, the good news is most of the people in the courthouse were the media. And anybody that was in the media, if you're fair, you'll say, wow, that was anger. That was crazed. He was crazed. And the reason that Bob Costello acted a little bit upset, which I think he has a right to, was that every question he was being asked was being objected to by the other side and sustained by the judge. Sustained. I think he did it many times. I don't know what the number, many times. Even I was sitting there saying, and these were basic questions. And I never saw anybody treated that way by a judge. And I've been treated very badly by 2 other judges also, because it's all the same thing. And it all comes out of the White House. Crooked Joe Biden, the worst president in the history of our country. He's the worst president in the history of our country. The most incompetent. He's the dumbest president we've ever had. He's the dumbest president, most incompetent president, and he's the most dishonest president we've ever had. And so many he's a Manchurian candidate. You take a look at the way he treats China, Russia, so many others. You know, I ended the Russian pipeline. It was dead. He comes in and he approves it. And he gets $3.5 million, meaning $3.5 million is paid to the family, his family, from the mayor of Moscow's wife. And I said, where did that come from? Nobody wants to talk about it. But he's a very big danger to our country. And the only way they think they can win this election is by doing exactly what they're doing right now, win it in the courts because they can't win it at the ballot box. So we're going to show them that, we're going to fight. It's actually, I don't know, it's something where I'm wired in such a way that a lot of people would have gone away a long time ago. They would have gone away after impeachment hoax number 1. That was a total hoax. I had great support from the Republican Party, though. Then you had impeachment hoax number 2. And then they formed the committee. How about they formed the committee of thugs, the J6 committee of thugs. And they took their records and they destroyed all of the records after the committee was abandoned because those records were great for us. Now, can you imagine if Republicans did that? Everybody would have been in jail by now.
Trump is the fish of political speeches. I have never heard anything more accurate in my life.
They meet.
Hardcore fans travel around the country, never really know how long it's going to go. Better high.
Thank you. But it was all Democrats and 2 wayward Republicans. Liz Cheney and crying Adam Kinzinger. He cries every time he goes on television. He's the most emotional human being I think I've ever seen. And that was our representatives. These 2 people were our rep. So they had all this stuff that they're leaking. And then when it came time to look at the records, like where the police said and the Capitol Guard said that I supplied, think of it, that I recommended as many soldiers or National Guard as you want. 10,000. If you had 500, you wouldn't have had a problem. There wouldn't have been a J6. But Nancy Pelosi and the group didn't want it. Anyway, so they have testimony to all of that, that I did not attack the Secret Service agent in the front of a car. You know, these are strong people. And I supposedly went to the driver, and I grabbed him around the neck. And he rebuffed me, and then I went to the other guy, who I think is a black belt in karate, and he's slightly younger than me, maybe 35 years, 40 years, 50 years. And I grabbed him around the neck and said, he's a black belt in karate. They know how to get somebody from around their neck. They would have gone like this, and that would be the end of that. Actually, I had a friend that said, you shouldn't dispute that. That makes you look like the toughest cookie we've ever seen. You should have let that go on. But the fact is, it never happened. It was all made up. And that was proven to be made up. It proved to be a false story. And they deleted and destroyed all of that information, every ounce of it. We're dealing with a corrupt government. We have a corrupt country. Our elections are corrupt. Our borders are open. Our borders are going to be closed very soon. November 5th is going to be the most important day in the history of our country. Now, when I say that, because my people are always saying, do this, because we're fighting for America, DonaldJTrump.com. I hope everybody watching right now, DonaldJTrump.com, because it really makes a difference. They have a lot of money on the other side. I don't know where they get it. Nobody knows where they get it. But for some reason, they get money. But they're not on the side of our country. In many ways, I think they hate our country. Who on earth can want open borders where people are allowed to pour in from countries unknown, from places unknown, from languages that we haven't even heard of? We have people sitting in schools with languages where very few people have ever even heard of these languages. It's not like Spanish or French or Russian. Languages unknown. We have people coming from corners of the globe, and many of them are not good people. Many terrorists, record levels of terrorism, record levels of terrorists have come into our country. Record. They've never seen anything like it. You know, there was a report that in 2019...
These motherfuckers crossing the border and speaking Klingon.
It was good for me.
Many Romulans over the border. Many Ferengi.
reported that came into our country. I don't believe that. I don't think that's possible. But they actually, 2019 was a Trump year. I don't believe that that could be possible. But they said no terrorists came into our country. So let's say it was close. Let's say it was close. But now record levels of terrorists, record levels, the highest level we've ever seen of terrorists are pouring into our country. You have China with just in the last few months, 29,000 people came in, and I looked at them on a line, and they look like perfect soldiers. They're almost all male, from 19 to 25. It looks like a recruiting exercise. They have beautiful tents. They have propane stoves. They have cell phones, the best you can buy. I said, what's going on? It looks like they're building an army right in our country. Now, I don't think that would happen, right? We're losing our country. And I really think that this is an event, what took place yesterday with this judge. Look, we have conflicted, but he's a crooked judge, and you'll understand that. And I say that knowing that it's very dangerous for me to say that, and I don't mind, because I'm willing to do whatever I have to do to save our country and to save our Constitution. I don't mind. So thank you. So we will continue the fight. We're going to make America great again. Very simple. When people fight MAGA, they say, we're going to fight. I watch Biden. We're going to fight MAGA. We're going to stop MAGA. It's make America great again. That's all it is. MAGA. Make America great again. Our country's in serious trouble. We owe $36 trillion. We were energy independent for the first time ever, and now we're begging Venezuela for oil. One statistic you have to hear. Venezuela was crime-ridden. Caracas, the cities, crime-ridden. 2 years ago, 3 years ago. They just reported a 72% drop in crime in the last year because all of their criminals, most of them, and the rest are coming in now, the ones that didn't come in. In Venezuela, their prisons have been emptied into the United States. Their criminals and drug dealers have been taken out of the cities and brought into the United States. And that's true with many other countries. The Congo has just released a lot of people from jail. Congo, Africa, just released a lot of people from their prisons and jails and brought them into the United States of America. This is what's happening to our country.
T2, what the hell are you doing, man? Send your prisoners.
Anyone. Little things like our kids can't have a Little League game anymore because you have tents and you have migrants living on the fields. That's the least of it. People are taking over our luxury hotels, migrants, and yet our veterans, our great veterans, are living on the streets like dogs. They're living on the streets. But migrants are living in luxury hotels in cities all over our country run by Democrats. So it's my honor to be doing this. It really is. It's a very unpleasant thing, to be honest. But it's a great, great honor. We're gonna do what I have to do. I'm going to do it. And the support has been, that's why I mentioned the number of $39 million. That's why I mentioned we're up 6 points. And we went up a lot over the last month because everybody saw it was a rigged deal. It was a rigged trial. But we're going to make America great again. We're going to make it better than ever before. November 5th, remember, November 5th is the most important day in the history of our country. Thank you very much, everybody.
No questions for Donald Trump as he makes his way back toward the elevator, flanked by his entire family. Ivanka Trump, who has been missing from the campaign trail for the majority of this particular campaign. But that is Trump in Trump Tower, a flashback to the 2016 era. We are only missing some of those names from the past. Four out of 10 Trump speech, no calling for the Proud Boys to stand by and stand back. Or stand back and stand by, I believe the quote was. Yeah, I mean, look, it's Trump, right? You really can't assume that he was going to change tack in any meaningful way. He seemed very, very excited to be able to talk about the gag order that he was under meant that he could not talk about any of the witnesses. And so what you saw there was him now free of the gag order, being able to talk about how unfair it was that Robert Costello was treated unfairly, blah, 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 blah. Very much projecting that of a frontrunner still. Not dwelling on the negative. In fact, he seemed excited that he was convicted. He seemed excited that he was portraying it as a good thing. That look at, we raised all this money, and the Daily Mail has a snap poll that has me up 6. Like, that's his take. This is I think in another world, I don't know if Trump would ever do this, but in another world, a politician would take this more somberly and say, what a dark, sad day. This is truly rot in our institutions. But Trump is never going to say that in a way that lands in a somber tone. It's always going to be sad day. Days are sad. Conflicted, corrupt judge. Bad. Not good. And that's the happy warrior thing. That's what he is going to be put out, that he's going to put out there. But also I don't know. We'll see. Here's what my gut says, or I'm going to wrap it up here. Here's what my gut says. Every single time Donald Trump has gotten closer to legal peril, he's gotten more popular. This has always been the red line that you've seen in polling, that he'll get less popular when he's convicted. My gut says he won't. He'll get more. Because it's happened each of those times. And so I would like to see myself be proven wrong before I change my priors. And right now my priors are, he's going to get more popular. And if that's the case, if you ask 1 out of 10 how many people or how this is going to affect things, I would put it sub 5. I'd put it 3 or 4, maybe. Because if this reverts to the norm, which is people hate the economy, then Trump wins. It's the inverse jail line. The closer to jail, the more likely he will be president. And if you put him in jail, it'll be like a Pop-Tart. He'll just pop up president. Jim Jordan has written to Bragg and Colangelo to testify before the House panel on June 13th. That's, that's a sign that at least the House, which it should not be trusted for fucking political acumen, but Jim Jordan believes that the more this is in the public eye, the more it is sympathetic to Trump. He's a convicted felon now. Does that mean he can't vote for himself? That was going back and forth. I know that Florida passed reforms on that a couple of years ago. In fact, more than a couple of years ago. I think it was when I still lived there. Because my roommate, very sweet person, had a record for drunk driving. And they were able to vote. They were very happy about that. No, he lives in Florida. He's a Florida resident. Old Donnie Trump. But I don't know. I have no idea whether or not that is able to happen. If the Dems did up replacing Biden with Kamala, how would things turn? I mean, at this point, dude, holy shit. we're so down the rabbit hole. I have no idea. Right now, according to the Biden playbook, this is what they wanted. They got what they wanted. Convicted felon Donald Trump. Convicted felon Donald Trump. Full name, 4 words, convicted felon Donald Trump. He is no longer President Donald Trump. He is convicted felon Donald Trump. In New York, you can vote as long as you haven't served time. And in Florida, it defaults to the rules of the state you were charged in. So he would be able to vote if he does not serve time or if he serves the time that he is issued. The virtual nomination pretty much removes the option to replace Biden. Or you just throw away that tape and you do a live roll call. I mean, here's the other thing with 34 felonies, right? Is like if he gets a monetary fine, like they kind of have to put him in jail, right? Otherwise, what's the penalty on 34 felonies? 34 felonies should be like a life sentence. $34 in a row? All right. That's it. That's all. We're done today. Thank you to everybody. We'll be back with another week. Ooh, it's exciting week of live shows tomorrow or next week. We'll have to get some good people. It's going to be a fun time. A Congo, letting everybody out. Congo, removing people. All right, that's it.